founding president, Dr. Sam Nujoma. Now, we've got a great lineup of conversations for you today. We'll be starting by speaking to the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Mr. France Kapofi, will be joining us to share his experiences working with the late President Nujoma. With a career spanning military, political, and government, Minister Kapofi offers a unique perspective on the president's lasting impact. Now, in the wake of the passing of Dr. Sam Nujoma, the UK-Namibia relations is poised for reflection and renewal. Charles Moore, the British High Commissioner, will also join us to discuss the enduring relationship between the United Kingdom and Namibia, as well as the legacy of the founding president. Also, Ms. Lucy Kirutu, Kenya's ambassador to Namibia, will be with us to reflect on Kenya's role in supporting Namibia's liberation struggle and honor Dr. Nujoma's legacy. She'll share insight into the deep historical bond between the two countries. We will also be pleased to welcome Ms. Elizabeth Kakukuru, Namibia's High Commissioner to Botswana, to discuss Dr. Nujoma's legacy and the strong diplomatic ties between Namibia and Botswana. She'll reflect on the visionary leadership of the late president and how it's shaped bilateral relationships between Namibia and Botswana. We'll also reflect on the historical, political, and economic ties between Namibia and Brazil. We'll be joined by Vivian Los Samarten, the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Brazil to Namibia, to discuss Brazil's contribution to Namibia's independence and the future of their diplomatic relationship. And continuing with our regional reflections, we'll be joined by Veiko Ngwete, Namibia's ambassador to South Africa, who will share his thoughts on Dr. Nujoma's legacy and discuss the state of Namibia-South Africa relations in the wake of his passing. Well, we're going to have that come up after this brief break, so do stay with us. Welcome back. As we continue to honor the legacy of founding President Sam Nujoma, the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Mr. France Kapofi, now joins us in studio to share his experiences whilst working with the late President Nujoma. His career spans from various significant roles in the military, political, and government. Mr. Kapofi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me.
To start with, Mr. Kapofi, let's time travel a little bit and go back to the day and place when you first met the founding president. If you remember that, tell us about that.
Thank you. It was quite a while ago. I went into exile at the age of 22, and I immediately joined the ranks of PLAN, the SWAPO's military wing. I stayed there about probably 5 years before I met President Nujoma. And it was in 1980 that I met President Nujoma for the first time in Zambia. After I've spent so many years in Angola, I was transferred to the Eastern Front with many other comrades to go and reinforce the front in Zambia. While at the front, I was transferred to go to a place called Nyango in 1979 when I went to Zambia. So I stayed there, and early 1980, President Nujoma came to Nyango with the late Secretary of Defense, Peter Nanyemba. So Comrade Nanyemba then said, well, my name was Amin. They called me Amin. That was my combat name. President wants to see you. So I went to see the president.
And what were your first impressions of him?
Well, I was very happy to have met the person that I longed to see for such a long time. This is a person I was looking up to, and the person who, whenever he issued a statement or anything, I would, you feel inspired, and I was looking forward to meeting him. I was fairly happy that I was given that opportunity to meet my leader. And when I met him, it was that broad smile and said, hello, Comrade Commander, how are you? He said, I'm fine, Comrade President. And he asked me about the situation in the center, how are the soldiers and all these things. And no, it's fine. I just came to greet you and all the best. And he gave me a scarf. He said, hey, Commander, it's cold sometimes. You wake up early, going to exercise, go. And I was over the moon, From there, I left. I went to my colleagues, and there was a big gathering there, looking at the scarf. And one of my colleagues said, now this scarf, what does it mean? I said, no, it's just something the president gave me. And he said, no, something else is going to come.
How did the relationship between yourself and founding President Sam Nujoma, evolve over the years?
Well, President Nujoma was very, very senior, very, very, is a leader. There was really no such relationship, close relationship as such. At a distance, yes, we were following what the party was doing, how he was directing us and all this. But I did not necessarily work very, very close with him daily. I was at the far end, and as young as I was. But then in the same year, 1990, just a month after I was given that scarf, I got my first appointment. A letter came appointing me to be the leader of that center. And well, that time I had no idea how to lead with the civilians, because I was a typical military person who had no relation necessarily with the masses, how to work with children, the mothers, people who are wounded and all these things. No, but I got the letter from the president appointing me as the director of the center. I was still a military person, and my knowledge was basically just war. But I have to reform. I have then to reform. But President Nujoma will come and address the masses, address the parade people, and he will have a meeting with the management, encourage you, brief you how the political situation is unfolding, etc., etc. But since then, I started coming closer and closer and closer.
Can you share with us, Mr. Kapofi, because you mentioned obviously it was a highlight, to you to finally have met him in 1980 as a young man. So what was it about his leadership that really sort of inspired you, that you looked up to? And can you describe how, President Nujoma's vision for united and prosperous Namibia influenced the policies and strategies that you helped implement in your career journey?
Well, first, President Nujoma was such an embodiment of our struggle. He was the rallying point. We all looked up to him, and whatever he said is what has to be done. We never believed that Nujoma would be wrong, because that is a person you are looking. You have no mothers and no fathers, but when you see Nujoma, you have everything. So this is the man who shown us the way, that determination to fight for the people of Namibia. And whenever he talks to you, he will not necessarily just talk to you as an individual. He will be calling you when he arrives at a place. He will come and have a parade or have a meeting, and he will have encouraged you to say, we have to fight. Yes, South Africa is a strong military force, but we have to fight. We have to make sure that the country is free. We have no any other country but Namibia. And all these things inspired us and made us fired up just to face the enemy. There was no any other alternative but Sam Nuyoma's personality. You know, you just want to hear, you just want to see Sam, you want to look at him, you want to just to feel his presence, because he was such a courageous man who never looked backward. You never see Sam discouraged or anything. You never see, he will be the same. He projects the same way. Whether he has been in such challenges, because there are times that Sam Nujoma is challenged. Experience, example like Kasinga, that has put a heavy burden on him. But Sam Nujoma will be the same. He is a person who is determined. You can never deter him from achieving what he wanted.
In your opinion, Mr. Kapofi, what were President Nujoma's most significant, and perhaps it's a difficult question to answer, but his most significant contributions to Namibia's development and, of course, also our international standing?
President Nujoma came to Namibia in 1989 after such a long, protracted armed liberation struggle, political, diplomatic, such a long, protracted struggle. And eventually he came to the country. The country was, the atmosphere in the country was very hostile, but our people embraced his arrival, our arrival and his arrival. And he came here and he preached the policy of national reconciliation. That ushered in a period of a sigh of relief to many people. And he meant it to say, yes, here we are. We're being divided, brother fighting brother, etc., etc. But this was not our war. This is a war imposed on us. And as such, we have now to reconcile as people of one country, of one motherland. And that policy really ushered in a spirit of oneness. And President Nujoma meant that, really. And that itself was a rallying point to say, okay, here we are as people. And President Nujoma really, he reached out to everybody. Irrespective of who you were, President Nujoma will reach out, will profess, will advocate or will speak about the spirit of oneness, one Namibia, one nation. And my personal experience with that policy is when I was appointed by him as Permanent Secretary of Defense. The task was to unite the erstwhile enemies, the combatants of Plan and the forces of the ex-SWATF. We were directed that this is what he wants. He wants a 50-50. When we put up the first parade, first unit that saluted the national flag at the Independence Stadium, President Nujoma wanted us to have a contingent of both Plan and ex-SWATF on a 50-50 basis to salute the national flag. And that itself tells the inner part of the man. He meant to unite his people. He meant to lead a prosperity and a country at peace with itself. So that was President Nujoma.
Mr. Kapofi, unfortunately we are out of time, but just one last brief question. As many Namibians, of course, during this last week, we've had time to reflect on the founding president's legacies. But what do you believe are his most enduring values and principles that he instilled you know, in Namibia's leadership and also within society?
Well, there could be many attributes,
Yeah.
but President Nujoma was very firm, very resolute, and if he wants to achieve an objective, when he decided to say we must build a railway from Chumeb to Ndangwa and Oshikango, you see a man determined. You see a man, and one day we were there and he was showing me how to hold his shovel, and I was there. It's a man who was determined to lead his people to prosperity, and you can never doubt Nuyoma's commitment to his own people. He was just that honest. He never liked lies. You should never lie to him. You must tell as it is. Whether, don't be afraid of telling the president what it is. But he's a man who was really, really, really committed to the cause of Namibia. All in all, committed to the cause of Namibia. He wanted the prosperity of his people. Whatever he did was really for the good of the people of this country.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time this afternoon, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, and it's good to be here.
Thank you so much.
It's a pity we are speaking at this period of time, but thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was Mr. France Kapofi speaking to us and sharing his sentiments and, of course, his memories on the former founding president of Namibia, Dr. Sam Nujoma. Our conversations will continue after this brief break, so stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Namibia and Brazil have enjoyed a strong relationship since Namibia gained independence, with Brazil playing a key role in supporting its liberation as well as development. As we reflect on the legacy of Namibia's founding president, we also examine the historical, political, and economic ties between the two nations. Today we're honored to welcome Vivian Los San Martin, Ambassador of the Federal Republic to Brazil to the Republic of Namibia, here to discuss Brazil's contributions to Namibia's independence and the evolution of course, our partnership. Ma'am, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, you represent a country that supported Namibia's independence. Looking back, how do you personally connect with that history?
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say that I offer my deepest condolences to the family and the people of Namibia for the passing of their founding father. We are mourning with them.
Thank you.
And as you mentioned, Brazil has supported the struggle for independence of Namibia at a very early stage. We voted against apartheid in the United Nations, and we supported the resolution 453 of the Security Council back in '78, which paved the way for the Namibian independence. And so after that in 1987, Sam Nujoma visited Brazil as leader of SWAPO and was received by the then President José Sarney. And he also visited Namibia at a later stage as president, and in 1990, on the 21st of March, we established relations with Namibia the same day, and we opened our embassy here. So from this perspective, we've always been supporting Namibia. But from a personal perspective, at that time I was an aspiring diplomat. So I think I could say that back in 1989, we had our first directly elected president after 21 years of military dictatorship. And in 1990, his mandate started. So I think I could say that from political perspective, Brazil and Namibia were starting a new journey.
Yeah. If you had to look at or pick just one of Brazil's contributions to Namibia that has been most significant, what would that be and why?
Well, I think that the most important Brazilian contribution to Namibia has been in the naval sector. I want to tell you a story. When the Walvis Bay was finally returned to Namibia on the 28th of February 1994, the first military ship to enter Namibian waters was a Brazilian frigate. And it was the first ship hoisting the Namibian flag at the time. And President Nujoma visited the ship, and he can be seen here, this picture, with the captain of Niterói, the commander of the ship. And so he visited the ship, and before leaving, he said the following: neighbors are more important than sons and daughters, because sons and daughters, they grow up and leave, but neighbors are forever. So I think that at the time he was saying that Brazil and Namibia are neighbors across the ocean, and that our relations should reflect this reality.
Yeah. Walking through Namibia today, what signs do you see of the strong relationship between our two countries?
Well, again, I think the naval cooperation is key. After the arrival of the frigate, 4 days later, a naval cooperation agreement between Brazil and Namibia was signed. And this cooperation enabled Namibia to create its own navy and later its own marine force. Many sailors and officers were trained in Brazil, and we still have a naval mission in Walvis Bay. So this is the flagship of our cooperation, but there are other areas where we are already cooperating. For example, in food security, we have projects being implemented by the World Food Program in Namibia. And so there are many other areas where we also are working together. We have an agreement that was signed in '95 on technical and education cooperation, and this agreement allows Namibian students to study in Brazil, in Brazilian universities, tuition free. So these are some of the areas where you can see the presence of Brazil here.
Looking ahead, though, where do you see the biggest untapped potential in our economic partnerships?
There are so many. I can immediately think about agriculture, energy, pharmaceuticals, creative industries, sports. Agriculture, for example, Brazil is well known for having become one of the biggest producers of food and exporters. And that was achieved because of investment in research and in the technologies that were adapted to the tropics and to arid climates. So I believe that we can contribute to the Namibian goal of achieving self-sufficiency and increasing its food security. This is one area. But for example, you take energy. Namibia is preparing now to start exploration of oil and gas.
Yes.
Brazil has a large experience in this activity, and especially when it comes to deep water exploration. We also have a lot of experience in renewables. So this is also an area where I think we can do more together. We already have a request for training activities, and we are working to identify partners in Brazil so that when Namibia start having these activities and this sector, it will need highly trained people and many skills. So this is another area which I think is very promising. You take creative industries, for example. In 2003, we organized here the first Brazilian cinema workshop. And we brought a very famous movie director to Namibia, and she, to present to Namibian students, actors, movie directors, producers, how her experience. It was a huge success, and we are already planning the second workshop. So this is just examples. These are just examples, but there are so many areas where I think we can cooperate. And last, that our trade is very small. I think that there are many opportunities there.
I also wanted to ask if you ever met, Dr. Sam Nujoma personally, and what your personal reflections on his legacy is.
Oh, unfortunately, I didn't have the privilege of speaking to him. I saw him once in 2022 at a reception at an embassy. He attended the reception, and I could see him from a distance, and I was just impressed. It was such a, dignified and serene character, But I didn't have the privilege to speak to him personally.
And your reflections, of course, on his legacy, even though you didn't meet him personally, you knew of the man. So what do you make of, his legacy that he's left behind, not only for Namibians, Africa at large, and perhaps even the world?
Yes, well, I think that his legacy is mainly, his deeds and his values.
Yeah.
His courage, his determination to free Namibia, his belief in democracy, in the freedom of expression, his advocacy of education. All these are principles that should continue to be, upheld. And I particularly admire his decision to determine a policy of reconciliation.
Yes.
As Minister Kapofi said before me, I think that at that time in Namibia, where the wounds of apartheid were still fresh, he decided to promote unity and not division. It was a very wise decision, and I think this is one of his main legacies, the idea of unity in diversity.
Madam San Martin, your final remarks this afternoon?
Well, I would like to say that I'm deeply moved by all the homage that are being given to San Nujoma, and I see a country that is united in grief, and I'm confident that his legacy will live on.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time here this afternoon. Well, that was Vivian Los San Martin, the ambassador of Brazil to Namibia, speaking to us there. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. In the wake of the passing of Namibia's founding president, Sam Nujoma, the UK-Namibia relationship is poised for reflection and renewal. The British High Commission has been a long-standing partner in Namibia's journey, supporting the country through its independence and its continued development. High Commissioner Mr. Charles Moore, who has seen the bilateral ties flourish, speaks with us now about the legacy of Dr. Sam Nujoma, the enduring connection between the United Kingdom and Namibia, and how the relationship will continue to evolve in the future. Mr. Moore, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Just to start with, talk to us about how you reflect, firstly, on the historical bond between the United Kingdom and Namibia.
Thank you. Well, it goes back a long way, and thank you for having me, just because this is an opportunity as well to express condolences to the family of Dr. Nujoma and to the President and the people of the Republic of Namibia. Not only on behalf of the people of the United Kingdom, but also I'm the Dean of the Commonwealth Heads of Mission in Namibia, so expressing condolences on behalf of my Commonwealth colleagues here as well.
Thank you.
But we have a long history, a long and great history with Namibia.
Yeah.
We were one of the first missions to open on independence. In fact, we had an office in Windhoek before independence. It was Dr. Nujoma who wanted Namibia to join the Commonwealth. which of course is a great organisation for like-minded countries with democratic values. And he invited Her Majesty the Queen on a state visit here in 1991, which is still very fondly remembered,
yes.
Not just by members of the royal family, because if you come to Namibia once, you don't forget, but also by many members of Namibian society, and many members of Parliament and members of the cabinet who joined the cabinet on independence were still in office until recently, and so there are many senior people who have very fond memories of Her late Majesty's visit here in 1991. And so, those bonds were, I think, cemented very quickly after independence to give us a strong bilateral relationship.
I also want to talk about the early relationship between the UK and Namibia and how the United Kingdom, supported Namibia in the road to independence.
Well, I think celebrating independence is a key milestone for any country. And it really shows how that country starts its development. We were very supportive of Namibia becoming an independent country, and therefore those early years, it's obviously important to recognise that independence means self-determination.
Yes.
And we were confident from independence that it was because of not just President Nujoma, but also the Constitution Committee and Hage Geingob, who was Prime Minister at the time. It's because of the dedication and commitment of those people who put Namibia on the right path towards democracy and peace and reconciliation, which we could actually observe with pride and pleasure, because it's enviable. I mean, Namibia has a fabulous constitution, which was written to make sure that the country was safe and secure and peaceful. And in those senses, we didn't need to be too much involved in the development of that sort of society, because it was developed already by people like President Nujoma.
The bilateral relationship between Namibia and the United Kingdom is multifaceted. Could you share how the British government, has helped Namibia address challenges such as poverty and perhaps also even climate change?
Yeah. Well, like the rest of the international community, we do what we can to assist developing countries with those sort of challenges where they can't always help themselves. Namibia is the most arid country in Africa, and therefore is a victim of climate change rather than a perpetrator. And it's very, very difficult to address those sort of challenges. Poverty, I think it was Nelson Mandela who said that poverty is not natural, it's man-made. And so it can be eradicated by man. But, those are long-term challenges, and poverty exists not just in Namibia, but it's all around the world. I mean, we have some poverty in the UK as well. And so these are long-term challenges where actually it's not about helping, it's about being partners. We can support, for example, in the international fora, activities that help address the impact of climate change. We can do projects here, like the British High Commission undertakes projects quite regularly, quite often around food sustainability, which helps with drought relief, which also helps to alleviate poverty by enabling people to grow their own food. And it's maybe little things, but there are lots of little things that we can do to try to alleviate poverty and climate change, because it has a big impact on a country like Namibia.
In your recent discussion with President Nangolo-Mbumba, what were some of the key areas, Mr. Moore, of focus for continuing to strengthen the bilateral relationship between us and the UK?
Well, one of the key things that we all focus on now is trade. And over the past few years, we've seen Namibia showing greater interest in more varied international trade. And our trading relationship over the past 10, 20 years has been relatively small, but we've both got an enthusiasm to increase that now. And I work quite closely with Namibia's High Commissioner to London, Her Excellency Linda Scott, and we work together on trying to build trading relationships. And just recently it's been announced that the UK has appointed a UK trade envoy for Namibia, which is actually a really good development, and hopefully will give another boost to our trading relationship, because there are so many opportunities. Namibia is a land of opportunities for business and investment, and the UK has a lot of businesses to offer and to invest in Namibia. We have huge skills, for example, in solar energy, in green hydrogen, in oil and gas, and it's these sort of areas where we need to exploit them.
Dr. Sam Nyoma's legacy is very deeply ingrained in Namibia's independence and national identity. How can the UK and Namibia continue to honour its contributions while looking forward to our future cooperation?
I think we do that every day anyway, and almost subconsciously, because it was Dr. Nujoma who, as first president, instilled in Namibia this sense of peace and democracy and calm and reconciliation, and that has been constant until today. So I think those are democratic values that we prefer to live by as well, as does the Commonwealth. And so I think where Namibia is at the moment actually embodies the values that Dr. Nujoma instilled, and we find that very easy to work with.
Just as we finalize our conversation, your remarks that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, it's the passing of the founding president is obviously a significant occasion for Namibia, and it's not just Namibia. I think in southern Africa, but also across the African continent as a liberation leader, Dr. Nuyoma's impact on history was really quite significant, and rather like last year when unfortunately we lost President Hage Geingob, it has a massive impact on society, and I think what was special last year was to see how Namibia united in grief, and that is happening again, unfortunately. I mean, nobody wants to repeat these sort of things, but I can see now that again the country is united in grief, and I hope very soon we'll understand what the arrangements are for the memorial and the burial, not least because international partners are very keen to attend and support. But this is a very difficult time, not just for the family, but also for the country. And our sympathies lie with all those affected, and we wish Namibia well as it gets through this next turbulent period.
Mr. Charles Smith, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, our conversations will continue here on NBC One after this brief break. Do stay with us.
the way I can keep in my health, to walk 6 kilometers or 10 kilometers early in the morning before the sun rises. Is the best medicine one can get.
President Nujoma shows outstanding discipline and dedication in his daily regime, which starts every day with early morning exercises. The responsibility of being the president of a country and the demands it places on a person is a taxing job for anyone. He's without doubt one of Africa's heroes.
Good afternoon, Namibia. Thank you so much for joining us for our 4 o'clock highlights here on MBC. I'm Ivan Shishanda. Speakers at the memorial service of the late founding president, Sam Nujoma, expressed how he profoundly impacted their lives and that of the nation, which motivated them to establish organizations dedicated to changing the lives of others. Now, the service was attended by political leaders, dignitaries, and members of the public who gathered to celebrate his legacy and unwavering commitment to Namibia. Among the distinguished speakers was the former First Lady Monica Gengos, who shared how Nujoma's legacy and belief in education as the greatest equalizer inspired her to establish one economy. Now, moving on, congestion of heavy cargo trucks at the Wanela border post outside Katima-Mulilo may soon be something of the past following a cabinet decision to implement short to medium-term interventions to address the bottlenecks. Now, the border post is the entry point between Namibia and Zambia for the past year, since the introduction of 24 hours operation of the Katima-Mulilo border post between Namibia and Zambia, the movement of cargo and goods trucks has increased significantly. Truck drivers and their cargo spend days at the border for clearance to enter or leave Namibia. Cabinet has now intervened and approved interventions to ensure that required documentation is processed before trucks arrive at the border. Minister of Information and Communication Technology, elaborates on the short-term interventions.
The introduction of clearing agent rules gazetted under the Customs and Excise Act, Act number 20 of 1998, which establishes the Association of Truck Drivers for Namibia to serve as a forum for public-private partnership and sector dialogues between various border agencies and truck drivers to ensure that issues affecting the truck drivers, as well as to ensure that issues affecting the effective clearance of goods are discussed and addressed timeously. The 24-hour operation of the Way Bridge to coincide with the 24-hour operations of the Katima-Mulilo-Wenela border post as from the 1st of April 2025, and diplomatic engagement with Zambia to remove processing restrictions for one-stop border post between Namibia and Zambia, development of a truck port facility, and relocation of Katima-Mulilo Way Bridge to prevent trucks from clogging the main town areas of Katima-Mulilo and ensure all way checks are conducted near the border.
Some young people in Tsunkwe have raised concerns about what they described as unfair awarding of tenders in the constituency, particularly the construction of the toilets in the local villages. The youth alleges that business people and government employees are monopolizing tenders without consulting or involving the locals. Youth Officer Jeffrey Gomez expressed disappointment over the exclusion of young people from the toilet construction tender. He stated that such tenders should be communicated through his office to ensure youth participation. According to him, the tender was awarded to 3 individuals, excluding the youth, and the project is already underway. Speaking to NBC News, Paulus Ndara highlighted the ongoing challenges with the youth inclusion. Ndara also said that the constituency office is failing to share information about opportunities, adding that the lack of opportunities is contributing to social ills such as alcohol abuse among youths. Another young person, Veronica Mohomeki, also expressed her frustration with local leaders. She also suggested that the community should have been informed through a meeting and the tender plan clearly communicated. Now, Tsunkwe Youth Chairperson Given Kao also shared these concerns. In response, Tsunkwe Constituency Councillor Johannes Ausiku stated that the process of awarding tenders has changed.
This is the problem that we always have, to say whenever such important information is coming in, or whenever such tenders are coming in that's supposed to benefit the youth are not always being considered. They are not always being confronted to say, no, this is what we have as a constituency. What can we do as the youth? Or what type of youth are, are the youth that have this qualification or have these skills into doing this opportunity or this job? They don't do that.
As a youth from Tsunkwe constituency, I'm very much disappointed in my leaders because they are being greedy. That's what we call being greedy. A tender that they could have given to the youth of Tsunkwe to improve the lives of the youth in this Tsunkwe. They decided to be greedy and give it to government employees, people that are getting a salary each and every month. It's really disappointing. It's very, very disappointing and heartbreaking because we have a lot of youth, people that can build, people that are just on streets. It's not always about alcohol, and there's even people who don't drink alcohol who needed that tender, who needed a bit of that money. Just a little share of that money. So you people want to tell me from Roydach to Gam, we don't have capable youth.
I feel very bad for the youth of Tsunkwe constituency. Since you say business people were given the projects, what about the youth? What about the youth that does not have a work and has the grades and have the ability to also handle that type of project? So it's really a bad thing to less regard a youth of Tsunkwe constituency.
If you don't apply, you don't just get something. You apply, they go through it, they will choose the person who's supposed who qualify. But if you did not do anything, which tender do you expect to get? And when people are applying, they don't see whether this person is working in government or this person is a business, this person also. What they do, they look at the documents which the person have submitted.
Flood victims who were moved to Farm 508 on the outskirts of Koreahab are satisfied with the plots on which they were settled by the city of Windhoek. However, there are some challenges, particularly with transport for their school-going children. Now, residents at Farm 508 say that although they are grateful for the land provided, they still face poverty on a daily basis. Among their concerns are the long distances they have to walk to find taxi to go to work and for their children to go to school. Taxi charge $26 for one-way trip to be dropped off at Okapale and then walk the remainder of the distance to a settlement or pay an additional $20 up to Farm 508. Fiona Kamesepo, who moved from Ochomuse to Farm 508, says she has lost her job because she would often show up late due to time, and it takes her to walk and find a taxi. The residents suggest that the municipality introduce a bus shift for the mornings that would take at least one trip to a place that is suitable for them to find a taxi. Another resident, Hilda Huases, claims that there are leopards roaming the area, which pose a threat to them and their pets. She says leopards often come at night scratching on their makeshift structures. They say that apart for the few challenges they are facing, they appreciate the effort that the government has made.
Most of us lost our jobs because we were late for work. The distance is too far and we have to walk to Okapale to find a taxi, or along the way if you are lucky. Municipality must create a bus stop here, at least one bus for all the people so they can go once. Some of our men start working at 7, so the ones who start early can go first and the rest later.
As part of its corporate social responsibility, Powercom, a subsidiary of Telecom Namibia, donated school shoes and stationery valued at $43,000 to 150 learners at the Mina Sachs Primary School in Keetmanshoop. Now, the donation of shoes and stationery is aimed to ensuring that learners walk into their classroom with confidence and dignity. Wilika Mutota, the principal of Mina Sachs Primary School, welcomed the donation. The learners of Mina Sachs Primary School should not hide their excitement. Head girl Lee and Pinier spoke on their behalf. Powercom is a 100% subsidiary of Telecom Namibia with a mandate to serve as an ICT infrastructure and equipment provider.
Education is the cornerstone of society, and we believe every child deserves the opportunity to learn and grow without limitations. Proper footwear is just not a necessity. It symbolizes support and care for all of us in the community. As we hand over these school shoes and stationery sets, let us remember to act more than just providing physical items. It is about instilling hope, encouraging ambition, and fostering inclusive environment where every learner can feel valued.
In ending our condolences to the family of our late president, the Namibian people and the Namibian people at large. So Namibia and Angola has got a very long history of relationship. And I think the departure of our comrade president, His Excellency Dr. Sam Nujoma, is going to leave a lasting, both for Namibia and for the region at large. So President Nujoma, of course, will be remembered as the sculptor of the Namib evolution. He will be remembered as an expert of the fight against colonialism, racial oppression. President Nujoma was the commander in chief of the People's Liberation Army of Namibia plan, the military wing of SWAPO of Namibia. He is the leader of the then expressed people of the Republic of Namibia, a well-known Pan-Africanist, a strategist par excellence, a peacemaker, and a visionary. The relationship between Namibia and Angola has got several dimensions. So our cultural relationship with Angola started years way back before even the soul of our liberation struggle. This relationship has been there before the two countries were separated by the colonizers. When the colonizers came in our two respective countries, so they found our people living as one. There was no boundaries. There was not what is called Angola or what was then called Southwest Africa. That's the cultural relation we are referring to. And then the relationship which ensued when the people of our respective countries decided to the war for freedom and independence in order to liberate the people of our respective countries. So the Angolans waged the war against the Portuguese, and Namibians, particularly SWAPO, waged the war of liberation against the South African apartheid regime. So also added another dimension as freedom fighters, as liberation movements. We fought together in order to liberate our people. So when Angola attained independence in 1975, SWAPO moved to our provisional headquarters from Zambia to Angola. And Angola soil for the guerrillas of SWAPO to wage armed liberation struggle from the Angolan soil. Mm-hmm. As a result of us now fighting together, the FAPLA, SWAPO, clan combatants, so we shared the trenches, we shared the sweat, we shared the blood, and we shared yes together.
Thank you.
And that is the bond which created this strong relationship between Namibia and Angola.
Thank you, sir. The founding president was a key figure as well in promoting Pan-Africanism, as you alluded to briefly earlier, as well as regional integration. So how can, Namibia and Angola further strengthen their cooperation in line with the ideals that he had?
President Nujoma was there formation of the Organization of African Unity in 1960 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So, and he was also there at the transformation from the OAU to to African Union. President Nujoma was there where the formation of the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, SADCC, which during 1980 in Lusaka, Zambia. And he was part of its transformation to start on the 17th of August, 1992, Windhoek, Namibia. So that self-demonstrate the role President Nujoma played in regional integration.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about some of the key... Sorry, just to interject, but unfortunately we don't have much time and I want to cover so much more with you. Perhaps you can talk to us about some of the key areas of collaboration between Namibia and Angola today, and how, founding President Nujoma's legacy inspire these efforts.
So Sam Nujoma will be, as I said, is the proponent of regional integration. So particularly between Namibia and Angola and our neighbor, the program to create the corridors, they say the Trans-Kalahari corridor, the Trans-Kunene, the Zambezi, Nora Lumbashi, all those programs were leadership of President Nujoma. So the road network for connecting Namibia with our neighbors, those were plans which were, and then it started with the execution during the 10 years that Nujoma as President of the Republic. Namibia and Angola have signed memoranda and agreements to 40 during the tenure of President Nujoma and of the Republic. And this covers the sectors of water, energy, agriculture, defense and security, now oil, tourism, etc., etc. And most projects are doing exceptionally very well. They are serving the purpose they were designed for.
Given the fact that our former President, Dr. Sam Nujoma, had such strong and deep ties to Angola, are there any planned or perhaps ongoing activities between Namibia and Angola to honor Sam Nujoma's contributions?
Well, it's too early to say yes or not, but as I said, their relationship is quite healthy, doing so many things together. We have projects which are being jointly implemented by the two governments. So the achievements are just too enormous. So we're operating with Angola in terms of policies on conservation of shared resources. So those are some of the programs which we are seized with. Mm-hmm. On that note, I would just like to say that let the soul of our founding president rest in eternal.
Mr. Nandaho, we appreciate your message, we appreciate your time, and thank you for speaking to us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
President Nujoma undoubtedly gets his clear thinking and long life genes from his mother, who at the age of 92 still remembers clearly the difficult days of the past.
Kuna nonjebo.
Kuna njem. Umwe ekakunyari mota kama naliopo ngombe yaro. Twachigaro kebumbo. Ali rongolora kwikuti konjem. Ali sikochi kuti mwende kitarera no. Ngwari suzumike pombanda zomse wanda amohanti kudika. Ngandi tio nina hotototo zipaganjwa kikuzonda popini. Otozipaga nchotorongo ironga biuri muyo kuzipaga. Ndikulonda kuironga uye ndi kuzipunguka rinoronga. Zipaga njike kitorongo ngashina natoburu nchokuzipaga kukwe kukusana mtumbo koendera. Nino aite ndikulonda ndiku kukuse. Hakotorongo. Pakalita tongumande komesho kwaru kandi ye nga. Oto dipagi ke toko dipago ko kusama ntumbi opironga oye. Ninandi kuzonda pironga oye ndi kusepokari noronga niho.
Ndara ngana kupra tate kurukuja. Iyo kara ndewa emata uchenga ndi kiaro ngore na andaga ruka nenge shino chakererwa kwa matunjuri pa hiyo musuru watu wa chibana.
Gashingi ndoyo chirongo shamangurupa. Manga epangero ryo SWAPO ryo lilipo ngangayo bateri komesho wa SWAPO chironga chetu ngashingino ukutungo mbiri mo chirongo no kutungira kwa chiwanu wana wa ipangero esikola opo tukufe ku ufigona no uposi no mikithi dhiripo yatuvurwa kurwa omarugo genji ngowaro kusindana ukapoma hachimu bashingi no tatukara kucha pangiro yo SWAPO tali konjo kutapu figona no kohenu njorowere no uposi potukale tuna anongo baha mono kucho mugongo no shi warowa uno mididi thike penyo podika thike hu kuno meame. The way I can keep in my health to walk 6 kilometers or 10 kilometers early in the morning before the sunrise is the best medicine one can get.
President Nujoma shows outstanding discipline and dedication in his daily regime, which starts every day with early morning exercises.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
The responsibility of being the president of a country and the demands it places on a person is a taxing job for anyone. He's without doubt one of Africa's heroes.
Welcome back. If you've only just joined us, you're watching NBC One and you're watching a special broadcast as we are honoring the life of our founding president and father of the Namibian nation, Dr. Sam Nujoma. Today we are honored to have Namibia's High Commissioner to Botswana, Elizabeth Kakukuru, to discuss Dr. Nujoma's legacy and the current stage of Namibia-Botswana relations. Ms. Elizabeth, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon, Nana. Good afternoon to all the listeners out there.
Well, to start with, Ms. Elizabeth, we know that Dr. Sam Nujoma played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's foreign policy as its founding president. How, to start with, talk to us about how his leadership influenced the establishment as well as the development of diplomatic relations between Namibia and Botswana.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Let me first of all, at the onset, convey my heartfelt condolences to all the Namibian people on this very sad occasion, and also my condolences to the government and to the family of our late founding president. Indeed, the late founding president, Dr. Sam Nujoma, played a very key role in fostering strong diplomatic relations between our two countries, between Namibia and the Republic of Botswana. As the founding president, during his tenure, he cemented those close political and economic and cultural relations between our two countries that we are still enjoying today. And Botswana as a country also plays a very important role in the history of our liberation struggle, as it was an indispensable escape route which was used for many freedom fighters who were going into exile. And our founding president's relations with Botswana started during those years, going back to the liberation struggle, as he used Botswana as an escape route with the support of our late Chief Asea Kutako when he went into exile in the 1960s. So it was just a week ago where we went to see the vehicle that actually transported our founding president from Kobabes to the border in Botswana. We went to see the house, which was, the remains of the house, which housed him when he reached the border. They have to walk up to a place called Charles Hill. We went to see, and that's where he was first received before proceeding to other places in Botswana. So, since Namibia's independence in 1990, there are some key aspects, that has really developed that have been developed between our two countries. If you look at border and trade relations, Namibia and Botswana worked together to facilitate trade and movement of people, including signing a lot of agreements on border cooperation, the Trans-Kalahari Corridor, linking Namibia and Botswana, as well as the Walvis Corridor. It was also during our founding president that Botswana also got a dry port in Walvis Bay. During this time also, there have been peaceful resolution disputes. If you remember the Kasikili-Sedudu Island dispute, which was, ruled in favor of Botswana, but it did not affect our relations as a neighboring countries.
Thank you, Ms.
Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that elaborate response. Thank you. You mentioned some signing of agreements, and we do know that, in February of 2023, Namibia and Botswana signed an agreement allowing citizens to cross border using only their national identity cards or their ID cards, eliminating the need for passports. So how has this development impacted the movement of people and goods between the two countries?
Yes, it did. You know that, in all our countries, IDs are documents that almost everybody have. When it comes to passport, this came, as a very welcoming development, and it has improved and enhanced, the movement of people between our two sister countries. So following this, citizens from both countries can easily move, as a family together for, any reason that they want to move. For example, this agreement allows, our people to use, even if you don't have a passport. We had a case of one Namibian who was visiting here, and then the passport got lost. So he was worried. He wanted to apply for emergency traveling documents. But when we discovered that he had his ID, we informed him that, no, you can actually use your ID, to cross the border. So it has also boosted, trade and businesses, especially among small traders. They can easily cross the border between the two countries. For business people also, it's really allowing that smooth and seamless movement between of our people between our two countries. It is also, enhancing regional integration. As you also know, that with SADC, there's also, the protocol on the movement of people. Where we want to integrate, we cannot integrate, if there's no free movement, easy movement of people between our countries.
You also briefly mentioned
the two countries, we have expressed our satisfaction. Express our satisfaction to this process, and also to make it easier. Also, like one of our border, the Trans-Kalahari border post. We have developed a one-stop border. So which is a one-stop border post, and also it's open 24 hours. So it has really moved, made the movement of people between these two countries very easy. I think if we can look at the statistics, we will see that, the number of people who are crossing the borders have increased as compared to the era when we did not have this mechanism of crossing using our IDs.
You also, of course, have been touching on the Trans-Kalahari project. Now, the Trans-Kalahari Railway project has been a significant point of discussion between the two countries. So provide an update on this initiative and the potential benefits for both our nations.
Okay, the Trans-Kalahari is a very good, and also is a very significant project between our two countries, which have been developed within the framework of the Walvis Bay, Botswana, Gauteng, Maputo Development Corridor. So this one, it provides an onward connection from Gauteng to Maputo to Mozambique. So together, these corridors will form a unique road connection between our countries, and it will also, provide smooth movement of goods. Trucks, a lot of, if you travel to Botswana, you will see that, there are a lot of trucks on the road, and with accidents, because drivers have to travel long distances to drop and come back again to pick, items between the countries, going to South Africa and all that. If we have the railway, it will really easy. It will, make transportation of these goods very fast and smooth, and also, moving by rail will also be cheaper. So currently, the project is still a priority between our member states. We have so far, because initially the feasibility study that was done in 2011 is now outdated. It's being reviewed, taking into consideration new technology. So the project where we are now is to appoint a consultant to review, to carry out a review, a new feasibility study, so that, the project can move on. So this is going to be a very significant and very important, project also, not only moving goods, but also people between our two countries. As we know, the influx of movement of people between our two countries have increased.
Just lastly, Ms. Elizabeth, looking ahead, what are the key areas, where Namibia and Botswana can further enhance their partnership to achieve, common goals for the region's stability?
Yes, I think as neighboring countries, we do have a lot of agreements that we've signed. Our cooperation have reached the level of the BNC, where we meet at the level of the heads of state, and there are a number of agreements that we have signed. Maybe to mention, for example, one of the key areas is trade and investment, where both of us are members to the SADC community. We are all members of SADC, and also the SADC free trade area. We are also members of the African free trade area at the continental level. So trade, if we can enhance our trade investment cooperation, that will be very, very key. And also, if you look at tourism, both our two countries, tourism are key sectors, in Botswana and also in Namibia. It will be good if we can cooperate. For example, we have tourists who come, in the region. Most of them, they will go through Botswana to Namibia or go through Namibia to Botswana. So those are areas where we see how we can cooperate. And then the infrastructure development, we've already referred to the railway. There are also other issues like environment and wildlife. Those are also areas where we can look at and see, where we both have, advantages. If we can cooperate, it will really help us as two nations to develop. We also have the issue of energy. Energy is a very key sector now currently, where we are looking at how do we enhance and develop our clean energy. For example, looking at solar. Those are areas where we as two sister countries can cooperate, not even to forget about the issue of water resource management. We are all affected by drought, flooding. Like now, when it's raining a lot, it's flooding in Botswana, it's flooding in Namibia. When it's drought, we lose our livestock. So those are areas that we can see how can our cooperation, assist us as two sister countries, to move further. We also have agreements that we have signed in the area of culture, education. As two countries which shares, values, we've got, customs, people of the same culture living alongside our borders. So it will be also very important to make sure that, we develop, agreements or we enhance, those cultural activities that we share as two sister countries. And also education is very important, that we also look into how we can cooperate as two sister countries in terms of education. And also health, we do face common challenges, and it will be good if we reach agreements where we can cooperate as countries who are sharing close borders.
Madam Elizabeth Kakukuru, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Namibia's High Commissioner to Botswana speaking to us via Zoom. We'll be right back after this brief break. Welcome back. Now, Kenya has long been a steadfast ally in Namibia's struggle for independence, offering crucial support to the Southwest Africa People's Organization, of course also known as SWAPO, and playing a pivotal role in Namibia's transition to a free nation. As the country continues to mourn the passing of Dr. Sam Nujoma, Namibia's first president and a freedom fighter, Kenya's High Commissioner to Namibia, Mr. Michael Sialai, now joins us to reflect on Kenya's enduring relationship with the country and its role in supporting Nyoma's vision. So good afternoon and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you start by reflecting, for us on the role that Kenya played in Namibia's independence and, of course, the support the country offered to SWAPO during the liberation struggle, which I alluded to?
First and foremost is to take this opportunity to convey our sincere condolences to the family of the founding father of Namibia, the government of Namibia, and the people of Namibia, following the loss of the former president, an icon and a freedom fighter. We stand with you, and we really condole you. We feel for Namibians, and we are grateful for the things you have done in mourning him. Relationship between Kenya and Namibia dates back to almost 1964, actually, during the liberation struggle, when the former president of Kenya, the founding father of Kenya, Mr. Jomo Kenyatta, donated a Land Rover. In fact, it was, I understand, it was a truck to support SWAPO's fight for independence, which was taken to Francistown in Botswana. And it really assisted people who are fighting for independence. The car actually is in the military museum here. That's a good way. And then later on, during the transition, the United Nations Transition Assistance Group, Kenya contributed a battalion, a military battalion, civil servants also who oversaw the election process, even police officers. And that is when we really came in, and up to the day of independence. And even after independence, after the struggle, the government was new. They required some military support, special security support for the incoming government. The former President Daniel Arap Moi and the founding father of Namibia, Dr. Sam Nujoma, agreed that we wanted to retain the Kenyan military officers for another 6-7 months to assist in training the police, the military, and generally establishing the security apparatus for a new country. So we have, and we are happy that we are associated as part of the struggle for independence in Namibia. And because of that, the relationship is robust between Kenya and Namibia. We hold Namibians in high regard in Kenya. Same thing with us. We are held in high regard by Namibians, and we feel at home, and that we have got strong fraternal bond between Kenya and Namibia.
Fantastic. Well, talk to us about how critical this assistance was that Kenya, gave to Namibia in enabling the SWAPO party's operations, in the fight for independence.
Yeah. Other than the donation of the Land Rover and others, we had a number of freedom fighters from Namibia who came to East Africa, and quite a number came to Kenya. I've had an occasion to talk to a number of Namibian people in leadership. I can tell you that the president-elect, Dr. Nadine Ndaitwah, was actually a liaison officer for SWAPO in East Africa, and she came to Nairobi quite a number of times during that struggle. Remember that they had to go to the OAU to put their case. We also had a number of other Namibians who came to Kenya as they were proceeding outside the country to go and get education and fight. And I've had an occasion to meet some. So we had quite a number of Namibians. They even came to school in Kenya during that struggle. And so we have worked together. And in fact, the relationship between Kenya is not just at the level of the military and other things. It's also the people who came and we supported them during the struggle.
Looking at Kenya's involvement in the United Nations Transition Assistance Group, also that we commonly known as UNTAG, in the late 1980s, how did Kenya's contribution help shape the transition towards our independence in 1990?
Yeah. We are proud that we did something ourselves. Our military officers were based in 3 areas, in Okahanja, Osana, and Omites down in the Rehoboth. And during that period, there were Malaysia and Finland, and we were the 3rd group, and we were the only African people who actually supported in terms of military. And we stabilized the place and ensured that there was smooth operation from colonial rule or apartheid rule to the independence. And thereafter, we were given that opportunity to train the military and set up. If you look at, there's a lot of similarities. Our own General Opande, Daniel Opande, was the deputy commandant of the UN force, and he had a lot of influence. I remember I read a story the other day about the ADC, aide de camp of the founding father, was trained by our own general. General is also recognized in this country, and if you look at a number of other, we share. The military shares a lot of things between themselves, Kenya and Namibia. And out of that, by the way, we have a close working relationship between the Kenyan military and the Namibian military, one of the areas where we have collaborated. So Kenyan military people here did a lot. They actually provided even security to the founding father after independence, because you remember there was threat that the former colonial ruler could easily come back. And Kenya stood, General stood and provided that security to Namibia. And we are proud about it. Yeah.
Well, the passing of Dr. Sam Nujoma has left, quite a void amongst Namibians, and I think also within Africa. As Kenya joins us in mourning this loss, what are some of the key qualities of Dr. Nuyoma's leadership that you believe resonate deeply with the people of Kenya?
Yeah. Obviously, as a founding father, he's a respectable person. He was a courageous, I can tell you that, selfless person. He established a very strong foundation for Namibia. The political stability you have in this country is really attributable to him as a leader. After a conflict, when you are fighting for independence, there would be differences even among the local people themselves. And a founding father of the nation plays a very important role in stabilizing and taking care of those interests and ensuring that at the end of the day, this is one country. Building cohesiveness is a nationalism. Many other people do not make that chance in Africa, they're bringing people together. And the stability that is being enjoyed in Namibia is because of his leadership. As a courageous person, somebody who put the interests of the nation and say, let's forget what happened, let's work together, whether you are in this group or the other group. And we must congratulate him, thank him for that. As a country, I can tell you that you are lucky that you have a stable, democratic state because of the cohesiveness, people from different rainbows, rainbow color in Namibia and all that,
Lucky, and we are grateful for that indeed.
Yeah, we are. As Africans also, we're learning a lot. A courageous leader, a visionary person who really wanted to have one Namibia. And I can tell you that the leadership in Kenya during the Presidents Moi and Nujoma was a great period for us. And they really loved one another. They worked closely. They understood one another.
As you rightfully say, Kenya's relationship with Namibia is deeply rooted in mutual respect and a shared struggle for liberation. How does Kenya continue to honor this legacy and its diplomatic and cultural ties with Namibia today?
First is to inform you that I'm proud to be a Kenyan ambassador in Namibia. I mean, a stable country, people who are friendly, and ours has been a shared, we share a lot in history. We believe in destiny for Africa, and since independence. And by the way, we opened our embassy on 22nd of March, 1990. The president former President Daniel Ramoy came in for the inauguration of the founding father.
Yes.
And the following day, we opened the embassy, and we were the 6th country to recognize independence of Namibia. And from then on, I can tell you that the relationship has been cordial, warm, and we have a very far-reaching undertaking. One of them, by the way, is in 1992, when the founding father, Dr. Sam Nujoma, visited Nairobi. They entered into agreement between Kenya and Namibia to have what we call a free visa travel, abolition of visa. So you can go to Kenya without having to get a visa. Kenyans come to Namibia without getting a visa, which is not applicable everywhere. In addition, there are areas like education, quite a number of university lecturers and other people. We even had maths, English and maths and science teachers who came in during that period. We had an agreement. In the area of health, I mean, Kenyans have really, we have a very close working relationship. Quite a number of nurses have worked here, doctors. There was an agreement, and that in terms of our civil aviation, we contributed something to the civil aviation, among many other areas. And we have continued to have, and I can for sure inform you that in the last year, September, we had a joint meeting between the minister, our own Minister for Foreign Affairs, and the Minister for International Relations here to review the existing relationship between Kenya and Namibia. And there are new areas now that are coming up. One of them is the blue economy, the issue of fish industry, the use of ports. You know, you have got tri-ports where you assist Namibia, Botswana and Zambia, which are landlocked. So we also want to exchange ideas on that. The issue of urbanization. We want to twin cities between Kenya and Namibia. There is the issue of women, the gender factor, you know. We want to exchange ideas on the issues that are facing the gender in both Kenya and Namibia. There is a working between Kenya Revenue Authority and the Namibia Revenue Agency on exchange of ideas. And generally, automation of the public service. In Kenya, we have something called Huduma Center, where people go and get a one-stop shop where you get all your services rather than going to ministries. And that is something that we are trying to work together. And also there is a relationship which we are working on now between Kenya School of Government and the Namibian public, I think it's called Public Administration Institute. There's an institute. But also, we are working on two main memorandum of understanding. One on military between Kenya and Namibia. You know, we have had that. I can tell you every year we send military officers to come to Okahanja for training. They have also been sending military officers from Namibia. In fact, the last one we had was the one led by Brigadier General Nashinge. There was something like that, Nantinge. And also, we are working on an MOU on bilateral trade between Kenya and Namibia, which is to be considered signed during this year. And at the moment, Namibia, yes, the trade is in favor of Namibia, but we want to spur that trade so that all of us can gain.
Thank you so much. Well, we are running almost out of time, and I'd like to finally give you an opportunity, you know, to convey perhaps a message to the people of Namibia as they honor the life and the legacy of Dr. Sam Shafishuna Nujoma.
I think one thing that we really need to appreciate is the role played by the founding fathers in fighting for independence. Mzee Jomo Kenyatta said one time that the freedom fighters established the foundation of the state. And we must appreciate what Mzee is an honorable old man. Nujoma did for this country, among other freedom fighters. And then Kenyatta went ahead and challenged the youth now, the young people, that while the freedom fighters were establishing the foundation, like foundation of a house, we are now the architects. This young generation, you and I, are architects for Africa, so that Namibia now will really rely on the youth, the people coming up. The foundation has been established. We thank Mzee Nujoma and others, but the responsibility, the onus is on us now, the young generation, to build a better country. And we must appreciate that work that was done.
Thank you.
Dr. Nujoma was courageous, selfless, a visionary leader, I can tell you on that. And we will cherish him. And the the enduring relationship between Kenya and Namibia was established because of that. And as we mourn him, we also celebrate him for establishing a strong, democratic, and stable Namibia.
Mr. CLI, we appreciate your time here with us.
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that was Mr. Michael CLI, the High Commissioner of Kenya to Namibia, speaking to us there. Well, moving further along in our program, we also had the opportunity to delve into the diplomatic relations between Namibia and Palestine, exploring how Namibia's stance on a two-state solution affects the region, and we've also reflected on the enduring influence and legacy, of course, of our late founding president, Dr. Sam Nujoma. Let's take a look. Well, welcome back, and welcome if you've just joined us to this special broadcast here on MBC One as we reflect on the life of our founding president and father of the nation, Dr. Sam Shafi Shuna Nujoma, who passed away on the 8th of February 2025. Of course, today, as I mentioned earlier, we're giving a different angle of who the former president was, and today we're focusing on him being an internationalist. Now, tonight we delve, or this afternoon rather, we delve into the diplomatic relations between Namibia and Palestine, exploring how Namibia's stance on a two-state solution affects the region. We also reflect on the enduring influence and legacy of our late founding president, Dr. Sam Nujoma, and how his vision continues to guide Namibia's foreign policy still. Today, joining us on the other end is the Ambassador of Palestine to Namibia, Ambassador Hanan Jarar. Ma'am, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. Unfortunately, I'm not in Namibia for the moment. I'm based in South Africa. But I would love to take this opportunity to convey the Palestinian people and leadership deepest condolences on the passing of the founding president of Namibia. We all, as Palestinians, remember him shoulder to shoulder as two internationalists with our icon leader Yasser Arafat as well.
Now, Madame Gerard, Namibia has been a strong supporter of Palestine's rights to statehood. So perhaps we can start with you sharing how Dr. Sam Nujoma's vision shaped Namibia's foreign policy towards Palestine.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Sam Nujoma was a leader who understood the true meaning of liberation, dignity, and self-determination. His vision for Namibia's independence was deeply rooted in the broader struggle against colonialism and oppression worldwide. We have long-standing relationship between Palestine and Namibia, between the Palestinian people and the Namibians. We are not strangers to each other. We share a deeply rooted relationship based on friendship, based on fighting against apartheid, fighting against colonialism, and fighting against oppression. Our relationship between the two leaders, Yasser Arafat and Sam Nujoma, began in the 60s and strengthened in the 70s, developed significantly in the 80s, and of course flourished and took another dimension, like more official in the 90s after the independence and beyond. We opened our embassy in Namibia like only 2 months after President Yasser Arafat and leader Yasser Arafat attended the independence of Namibia. From the early days of Namibia's fight for freedom, Dr. Sam Nujoma consistently aligned the country's foreign policy, or SWAPO's foreign policy, with the principles of justice and international solidarity. This commitment naturally extended to Palestine, as he saw that Palestinian struggle is a continuation of the fight against apartheid and occupation.
How do you think, Namibia's solidarity with Palestine, as demonstrated by Dr. Nujoma, resonates with the people of the country today, with Palestinian people today?
Well, Dr. Nuyoma's solidarity and support to Palestine was never symbolic. It was moral and strategic stance that reflected a profound understanding of our shared struggles. And today, as Palestine faces ongoing occupation, displacement, aggression, and genocide, Namibia's unwavering support serves as a powerful reminder that the Namibia's fight for justice is not and was not isolated from our cause. It resonates deeply with Palestinians to know that Namibia stands despite all the odds and the difficulties regionally and internationally with the Palestinian people. It was only last year that Namibia backed the South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, and it was only last week that Namibia joined South Africa and another 7 countries in the forming the Hague group, which will supervise that Israel should be accountable for its violation of international law and international human rights. And this is like a strong evidence that the vision of Dr. Sam Nujoma is still strong in the foreign policy of the current Namibia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, rightly so. We do know that Dr. Nujoma was a fierce advocate for the, rights of oppressed people globally. So in your capacity as ambassador, Madam Gerard, how do you see his principles influencing Namibia's diplomatic efforts in the Middle East?
Dr. Nuyoma's principles were built on solidarity, as I mentioned, on justice, on resistance to achieve sovereignty, to achieve self-determination. And all of these are values that remain central to Namibia's foreign policy, especially in the Middle East, where we can find boiling areas in different places. In the standing against, in the Middle East, I mean, Namibia's diplomacy is shaped by these ideals, and it shows that Namibia always stands against occupation, against apartheid policies, and against human rights violations. Namibia's position on Palestine is a direct reflection of its own history because the experience or what has happened to Namibians is happening now to Palestinians. So we share the same processes more or less, and the Namibians' independence in the 90s is still new, and the experience of the Namibians under oppression and under apartheid regime and colonization is still fresh, and it's very relevant to the Palestinian people. And we do believe that the legacy of Dr. Sam Nujoma continues today as Namibia refuses to bow to external pressure, and instead it prioritizes justice and self-determination in its international engagements at all fronts.
Madam Gerard, Dr. Nuyoma's leadership was pivotal in Namibia's independence, as many of us, of course, know. How do you balance honoring his legacy with the practical realities of contemporary diplomacy in the Middle East?
Well, honoring Dr. Nuyoma's legacy means staying true to the principles of justice and solidarity, and it requires continuous vigilance against the attempts to erase the hard-earned freedoms. Dr. Nujoma, like Yasser Arafat, they are like Nelson Mandela. They were internationalists at the time. That people at that time, they didn't realize what an international list mean. They didn't know that there are global citizens. These leaders were like this in a different time. They had a vision of a world where no nation should be subjugated. No nation should be under apartheid regime. And today, Namibia upholds that vision by standing firmly on the side of the oppressed always, whether it's for Palestine or any other nation. And this is reflected clearly in its policies and regulations, whether regionally, internally, or even on the international arena. I would say that in contemporary diplomacy, Namibia continues to embody these principles by taking bold stances, by talking boldly about the Palestinian people, by talking boldly against oppression. And this is reflected very clearly when it comes to supporting the South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, despite all kinds of pressure from the global actors. Namibia has refused to compromise on its commitment to justice. This is how we balance history with current modern diplomacy, by ensuring that our foreign policy remains a reflection of the values that leaders like Nujoma and Yasser Arafat championed.
Well, you touched on something just briefly there that I'd like to expand on a little bit, perhaps in your next response. So looking ahead, what role do you foresee for Namibia in fostering dialogue and peace between Israel and Palestine, particularly in the context of Dr. Nuyoma's vision for African solidarity with oppressed peoples?
Definitely, Namibia has a major role to play. We see Namibia as a small country, but it has a big role and a big voice. Also, whether in Human Rights Council, in the United Nations, in the ICJ, in the ICC, or in the African Union as well. We see Namibia as a nation that overcame oppression, has a moral responsibility to be a voice for justice. Dr. Nuyoma's vision for African solidarity with oppressed peoples continues to inspire Namibia's stance on Palestine and on different nations as well. Moving forward, Namibia can play a role in diplomatic efforts aimed at pushing for genuine peace, one that is based on international law, not those imposed settlements or settlements that has no legal base, I would say. Namibia can also strengthen African Union support for Palestine and work alongside nations that advocate for the Palestinian and oppressed people rights at international platforms such as the United Nations and the Non-Aligned Movement. I see that Namibia's role is not just about mediation, but also about ensuring that justice is at the center of any peace process that might take place. And I really salute the Namibian politicians who are always very vocal on Palestine, always, all the times.
Madame Gerard, we thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Just in closing, your final remarks.
Thank you so much for hosting us, and we are looking for maybe attending the memorial ceremony for Dr. Sam Nujoma, as we believe that he is one of the icons, one of the internationalists, one of the leaders who stood shoulder to shoulder with the Palestinian movement, as I mentioned, especially in the 60s and 70s, 80s, up to 90s, and even his legacy also shaped and is shaping and hopefully will shape for decades to come the face of Namibian diplomacy and policies.
Welcome back. Sam Nujoma, Namibia's founding president, was instrumental in leading the nation to independence in 1990. Throughout the liberation struggle, Egypt plays a pivotal role in supporting SWAPO, the Southwest Africa People's Organization, by providing military training and diplomatic backing. Notably, in 1961, Nujoma attended the third All-African People's Conference in Cairo, when he met President Gamal Abdel Nasser, strengthening the bond between the two nations. This relationship has continued to flourish, with Egypt being among the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with Namibia post-independence. Today, we're honored to have the ambassador of Egypt to Namibia, His Excellency Wahel Lotfi Batea. He joins us to reflect on Dr. Sam Nuyoma's enduring legacy and the ongoing partnership between Egypt and Namibia. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Nina. Thank you for having me. Allow me to seize this opportunity to convey the condolences of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, President of Egypt, to His Excellency Dr. Nangolo Mumba, President of Namibia, and of course to the family of the founding President Dr. Sam Nujoma, as well as to all of Namibia, from the hearts of 100 million Egyptians. We share your pain, we share the legacy of a great man, and those are the kind of relations we hope it lasts between our two countries. Thank you
so much. Thank you. Now, Dr. Sam Nujoma is often hailed and very fondly hailed as the father of the nation. How do you perceive his contributions to Namibia's independence and nation building to start with?
His Excellency Dr. Sam Nujoma was no stranger to us in Egypt, because the first SWAPO office out of Namibia, it was in Cairo back in the early 60s. And those were great moments, great memories. And His Excellency clicked with our President Gamal Abdel Nasser at that time during the 1961 Third People Conference. And there was a reason behind this conference in shaping the mentality of the young leaders of that time, who are now our founding fathers of our nations. What happened is that Egypt was the first African country to gain independence in 1952. And it was followed by Ghana in 1957. And then it was followed by DRC in 1960. But it became so obvious that liberation is not the end of the struggle. It is the beginning of a more serious struggle. Because whether you are fighting colonialism or new colonialism, it is the same message. Countries who got independence, all of a sudden they have to create their own ministries, institutions, and it's a long way forward. And that's why, because we gained our independence early, we were very keen to assist our sister countries. 1961 was this conference was held. It was just weeks after the first Prime Minister of DRC, Patrice Lumumba, was assassinated. So it marked another sad chapter of history for Africa. How do we move forward? How do we promote our countries' economies? So we had to further cooperate with countries out of Africa, namely that Egypt was one of the founders of the non-aligned movement in 1955. And then to open more venues to cooperate with Asia and Latin America, Cuba, Indonesia, India, because we were all going through the same. So imagine a young leader, a young and dynamic leader like Dr. Sam Nujoma, witnessing all of this at first hand. He was among the youngest of this very fine first group of liberation leaders. So he was an excellent observer. He managed to always maintain the pride of Namibia. At that time it was not Namibia, but I will always refer to Namibia as Namibia because it's in our hearts. So he had great exposure. He connected with all the young world leaders who were very sincere about having independence for their countries.
Well, as you alluded to, and I also, I think, mentioned it in my introduction, that in 1961, Dr. Sam Nujoma attended this third All-African People's Conference in Cairo, where he met President Nasser. So how did such interactions influence the relationship between Egypt and Namibia during the liberation era?
President Nasser was very keen to see those leaders of tomorrow who will fight for their cause, who are willing to fight no matter how long it takes and no matter what it needs. And that's why it was very obvious that President Sam Nujoma will be one of those leaders. And then we started what is known as the African Association. The African Association is a building in Zamalek, very famous building, having 24 offices. Namibia had office number 19, which is on the 3rd floor. So all the world leaders who then came back to their countries to lead the fight for independence were occupying these rooms. And of course, the founding president was no stranger. Maybe he was one of the ones who stayed much longer, because Namibia took much longer than others to get in the independence. But Dr. Sam Nujoma never minded the long way or the struggle, because he was sure of what he's doing. He had faith in what he's doing.
Well, beyond the 1961 conference, were there other significant engagements that you can speak to us today about, between Dr. Sam Nujoma and Egyptian leaders that further solidified the bond between the two nations?
Of course, but even then, I must talk of what Egypt has done for the African movement and for Namibia. We are honored to be the first country to provide Namibia with military training. And it was not only a military fight, it was a diplomatic fight. And that's why we provided Dr. Sam Nujoma and the other leaders of Namibia with Egyptian diplomatic passports, because they needed to travel abroad. At that time, some people made sure they don't have any documents so they can travel, but we made sure they have the passports. And they had the logistics, the capabilities. And we made sure we give them the diplomatic support in the UN, and later on, of course, in the OOU, the African Union of now. So Egypt was very keen to provide logistical assistance, financial assistance, because at that time, our principle was to share our wealth. That's how Africa used to think. And I hope we always share, we always solve our problems internally, and we can support one another.
Since Namibia became independent in 1990, talk to us about how our relationships have changed since then and evolved between Egypt and Namibia, specifically now our bilateral relationship.
Our bilateral relations are moving from strength to strength, because like we did in many other countries, we made sure once Namibia got its independence that our people and our experts are ready to come here to help and assist in all fields. So whether it was engineering, medicine, teachers of all sorts, agriculture, our teams were here to assist in every way. And maybe because we were also very privileged that in 1990, it was the Egyptian president at that time, Hosni Mubarak, that in his capacity as chairperson of the OOU, he was the one lowering the South African flag and raising the Namibian flag. So at first hand, he saw how great Namibia is and what Namibia needs. So since that time, many bilateral visits, many of our experts are here. And to expand even more, we send about 80 to 90 high calibers from each ministry or institution in Namibia yearly to Egypt for training in different fields. So I usually receive in the beginning of the year a list of programs and training that Namibia needs. I submit them to Egypt and we send them for different training. So whether it's in irrigation, agriculture, police training, VIP protection, military. So our relations did not stop at this. We even managed to bring here some experts in agriculture who are living among us. It's a gift to Namibia by the Egyptian government. They are everywhere in Namibia, contributing to better systems of irrigation and agriculture, to assist in the food security because it's of great importance. Of course, each year we bring a convoy of medical doctors. We have two magnificent Egyptian Orthodox churches. So with the cooperation and the help of the churches, we managed to bring world-class doctors. They are all Egyptians. They live in Egypt and abroad, and they perform critical surgeries. So this convoy, I'm sure you have heard of it because usually it performs in Katatura General Hospital and Windhoek Central Hospital. And we hope to be more and more involved in assisting our brothers and sisters in Namibia.
Fantastic. Well, in your view, sir, how is Dr. Sam Nuyoma's legacy perceived within the broader African Union context?
Again, Dr. Sam Nujoma had lots of time to mature due to the events happening in Africa and the real needs of Africa. So we recall he had, for instance, a very strong role in the Great Lakes struggle, mainly in DRC. And his legacy continues because till now, Namibia has the same position in helping DRC, in helping other countries of Africa, and even far beyond. Look at Namibia being in the very west and south, and yet very concerned with the right of self-determination for Palestinians. Palestine is a neighbor of Egypt and is going through immense atrocities due to the attacks, due to Israel trying to forcibly dislocate people and move them, ethnic cleansing, and Namibia is not stopping. So the foundation of Namibia is very solid. No matter how people say that it's a small population or far away country, but the foundation is right. 100%. And that's why you expect Namibia always to be on the right side of history.
Well, as Namibians mourn, of course, the loss of their founding president, what message would you like to convey to them during this period of reflection?
During this period of reflection, I have a message from the heart. As an Egyptian, as an African, you have a beautiful country, you have a stable country, because your leaders managed to draft and consolidate a very strong constitution. This constitution helped Namibia during difficult times, like the passing away of last year of Dr. Hagi Geingob, and the smooth transition, and the role the current President, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, played to make sure everything is moving correctly and smoothly without any complications, like it happens in so many countries and neighboring countries. And that's why my message is that we should always appreciate our senior leaders, try to mix the experience of the senior leaders who know the history with the young and dynamic youth. And in this regard, while we are in a very sad moment, yet I'm very happy that the President-elect, she will be in office to carry on the torch. A very fine lady, a very patriotic leader who loves her country. We were honored as ambassadors to know her Excellency since the time she was the DPM for Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. And in every meeting, you see in her eyes, in her vision, that she's always looking at a beautiful Namibia, how to move Namibia forward, how to make sure there is food security, how to make sure Namibia can stand on its own. So my message is to reflect on your solid constitution, on your stability, and to keep supporting your leaders for a better future.
We appreciate that so much, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon and speaking to us.
Thank you, Nina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome back. Now, during Namibia's struggle, China was a key ally supporting SWAPO with military training, diplomatic backing and resources. After independence, Namibia and China continued to strengthen their relations, expanding cooperation in trade, infrastructure and education. Today, we're honored to have Namibia's ambassador to China, Elia Kayamo, to discuss Sam Nuyoma's lasting impact and the relationship between Namibia and China. Mr. Kayamo, good evening, good afternoon rather. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good.
Mr. Kayamo, to start with, how do you remember Sam Nuyoma's role in Namibia's fight for independence? And what made his leadership stand out on the international stage?
Yeah, me as member generation in that struggle, I remember Sam Nujoma who led us through thick and thin, us all the way, especially from the home front. He did his part by leading us, by uniting us for unity of purpose. It's how
Mr. Kayamo, China was one of Namibia's strongest allies during the liberation struggle. Can you highlight the kind of support that China provided to SWAPO during that time?
Yeah, no, surely I will, because Dr. Sam Nujoma in 1965, he came to China and Mao Zedong, the founding father of China, and asked him the Namibian people who were fighting in Angola, in Tanzania, with food, with medicine, and with the, so the leadership of China under Mao Zedong gave that assistance. So there was no doubt. China helped us from day one.
And over the years, of course, Namibia and China have built a strong relationship, as we do know. So how did Sam Nujoma lay the foundation for this partnership? What were some of his key diplomatic efforts with China?
Yeah, it's here to bring our young people on the same page that Namibia under Sam Nujoma, SWAPO under in 1971, when China became part of the United Nations, China was part of the African leadership that gave China that blessing to come in the United Nations and kick out, meaning that from that time, China has respect for from that time they have been working together to cooperate on international arena to support our struggle, and also to support the China struggle against imperialism.
And in what ways has the Namibia-China relationship grown since independence? How does it benefit Namibians today?
You see, if you can look at Namibia and today, you can see the difference. For example, just take in Sumep in Ondangwa, there was Sam Nujoma. Harbor in Namibia, the airport, the roads, and the building of schools, the institution of learning. It was because Sam Nujoma, all these things came about. We appreciate his skill, the way he could speak to the Chinese to help us building our society and our country.
Mr. Kayamo, talk to us about how the Chinese government and the people of China reacted. Well, that was Mr. Kayamo speaking to us there, but we do apologize. We cannot play the full interview due to the sound quality of that conversation. Another individual we also spoke to is former Miss Namibia and Miss Universe, Miss Michelle McLean Bailey. Let's take a look at that. Welcome back. In a heartfelt tribute to the late Dr. Sam Nujoma, Namibia's founding father, Michelle McLean Bailey reflects on his invaluable role as the patron of the Michelle McLean Children's Trust and the Michelle McLean Primary School. Dr. Nuyoma's unwavering support and vision were fundamental in shaping the foundation's mission, ensuring its sustainability and leaving an inedible mark on the education and welfare of Namibia's children. In our next conversation, we take a closer look at Michelle McLean Bailey's journey in honoring Dr. Nuyoma's legacy and the continued work of the Trust, which has affected generations of Namibian youth. Madam McLean Bailey, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm truly, truly honored. I'm just very, very deeply sad today about the loss of our founding father, Dr. Sam Nujoma. My condolences to the founding First Lady and to the Nujoma family and the Kondombolo family as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, we know that Dr. Sam Nujoma was a great supporter of the Michelle McLean Children's Trust. So can you share with us, how his patronage affected the Trust and its growth over the past, years?
We've had an amazing 34 years together, and I have been so grateful that Dr. Sam Nujoma agreed to be the patron of the Michelle McLean Children's Trust when I founded it in 1992. And ironically, he didn't see pageants as something insignificant. He saw it as an opportunity, me representing Namibia and then going on to win Miss Universe, as an opportunity for a young woman to represent the country, travel the world, and promote Namibia and its wonderful investment and tourism opportunities, and of course, all the good work that we did in the community together.
As the founding president of Namibia, Dr. Nujoma had a unique vision for the country's future. How did his, leadership and wisdom influence the goals and direction of the Michelle McLean Primary School and, the broader mission of the Trust?
From the first day I walked into his office and he agreed to be the patron of the Michelle McLean Children's Trust, I was awe-inspired. He's been my mentor ever since. And I think his vision about looking after the children, and true to what I said at the Miss Universe pageant when I won the title, they asked me, what would I do if I was made leader of the country tomorrow? And I thought about Dr. Sam Nujoma, and it came to me that I would really want to look after the children because they are the future. And although it sounds cliche, this is something that Dr. Sam and I worked together on tirelessly. When he inaugurated my school at the Michelle McLean Primary School in Ochamuza in Windhoek in the year 2000, he really, after many years of already been doing many, many projects throughout the country, initiating in education, he really inspired me to continue the good work, and education was so important to him, and especially creating and crafting our new future leaders.
100%. Well, in 1992, after winning your Miss Universe title, you made a promise to focus, on the children of Namibia, and Dr. Nujoma was a key figure in that journey. Talk to us about the significance of that promise and how his mentorship, helped guide you in fulfilling it.
Well, as I said, he was a mentor to me, but he also made time to really spend time with me to talk about the future ideals of Namibia and what we needed to do. So in many of our projects together, I have to recall one of my favorite projects was the Cool Project, where he actually came up north in Namibia with me, and we distributed rough terrain bicycles to children who had to walk very long distances from their homesteads and villages throughout Namibia to get to school. So it was important to him that children had the access to attend school because they were going to be our future leaders. And it was a fun occasion. My son, Luke, then was 6 years old, was with us, and we had a phenomenal time. So we really did have an opportunity, and I learned so much about promoting Namibia and the future of the country.
In the year 2000, we know that Dr. Nujoma attended the inauguration of the Michelle McLean Primary School. Talk to us about that day, what transpired, and of course, such a proud moment for yourself, and I'm sure for him as well.
Absolutely. I think the children were just awe-inspired, as I was, to see him come to the school and to show his real support for children and education. And it was one of those fun days that I will never forget. We were able to open and inaugurate the school, and now 34 years later we are still going strong. Thank you to the Ministry of Education for their support as well. And we've had hundreds of children that have graduated from the school. In fact, I get stopped on the street all the time when somebody says to me, I went to your Michelle McLean Primary School and now I'm a doctor.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Well, of course, Michelle, there's many people that we're speaking to during, over the past couple of days and in the days ahead. And we all ask them about the legacy that they take with them in terms of what they feel the founding president has imparted upon them. What would that be for you personally?
Well, besides the great support that he gave me, and I was able to work with him on the vision of ensuring that education was a priority in our country, going out as an ambassador in the world, and I'm now, a goodwill ambassador, consultant for tourism and investment. I think the most important thing for me going out into the world as an ambassador was that I was so proud. I was able to be so proud of my country because of the legacy of our political and economic stability, and the fact that not only have this beautiful country, but the international community really recognized him as a visionary, and I was always proud to go out in the world and represent him in Namibia.
Yeah. You're one of the few who I would consider lucky individuals who happen to share a personal relationship with Dr. Nujoma. So talk to us about that just briefly, me too.
Well, I have to reveal that he was a very humorous human being. I think many people saw the very serious side of him running the country. He had to be very pragmatic and serious in many ways, but he was fun-loving, a family man, and I just get goosebumps right now thinking about it. I remember one occasion, it was a day after Christmas, and he was at the coast in SWAPO, and he invited my family and I to go fishing with him. And oh, I get so emotional about this. And we raced along that road all the way up past Henty's Bay, and we had a full day fishing with him. I showed him my fisherwoman skills. He was very impressed. And he always said to me, and this inspired me most about him, he was a very disciplined man. And he taught me that, in life, you have to work hard and be very disciplined about your life. And talking about the fish, he was just very concerned always for health and well-being. A healthy body was a healthy mind. And he always said to me, as we were fishing, this fish is very important. You need to, look after your body, and eating fish, from Namibia is fantastic, and it's going to take you a long way, which it proves. It has taken him a long way, and he's had a vibrant and wonderful life.
Yeah. Well, in addition to what you just said, a lot of people have reiterated those very same sentiments, that he was somebody that was very conscious about health. Another thing that has been consistent throughout our conversations is the fact that he loved children, and he put great emphasis on the fact that, every Namibian child needs to be educated, and really work towards having the Namibian education system be one of quality. Just on that note briefly, Michelle, I want to just gauge your thoughts on around what you think the Namibian education system today, where it stands, and, if we still have a way to go. Are we right on par in terms of what Dr. Nujoma envisioned for this country?
I think there's always room to explore in improving our system, but I really do believe that the government has done an incredible job with our education. I think from my perspective, having the Michelle McLean Children Trust as an NGO, it's important for the private sector to also acknowledge, and from an NGO's perspective, that we all have to work together. We all have to collaborate. We can't work in silos. And so I was very proud to always work together with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and many other ministries. But the important thing is that going forward as a nation, we really do need to support our government and our future new woman president, the most excellent, Her Excellency Ndaitwa. So going forward, I know education is always going to be a priority for Namibia, and that is something that I think we need to work on from the corporate industry, private sector, and the public sector.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, just an opportunity and a message to your fellow Namibians as we do find ourselves within this mourning period. Michelle, are you there? Well, as we've been informing you, the nation this past week, that memorial services will be taking place at the Nujoma residence that is in Avis. Of course, the public is invited during the hours of 2 and 4 to visit the residence, and the memorial services will take place between 6 and 8 daily. Well, tonight's memorial service will be, the program director will be Mr. Penda Itindi, the executive director from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. And then there will be an opening prayer by Bishop Ngahahe of the St. John's Faith Mission. Of course, there's also going to be messages and tributes by Mr. Vetumbwavi Mungunda. He will be giving a tribute, as well as Mr. John Kasona and Mr. Marco Venk, a businessman. That's just to mention a few. That'll be happening between 6 and 8 this evening at the Nujoma residence in Avis. Also, news that came through earlier, and I think this is what Namibians have been waiting to hear in terms of the burial date for the former founding president and father of the nation, or President Angolo Mbumba, has declared that Saturday, the 1st of March, will be a public holiday to honor the burial of Dr. Sam Nujoma. So the date for burial has been set as the 1st of March 2025. We now are ready to cross over, I believe, to the team that is standing by at the residence, the Nujoma residence in Avis. From us here at studio, thank you so much for joining us for this special broadcast. Until next time, thank you for watching.
Dr. Sarah Kugongelwa Amadila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia,